World War II, one of the deadliest conflicts in human history, was precipitated by a complex web of political, economic, and social factors that developed in the aftermath of World War I. Understanding the causes of World War II requires examining several key factors. Treaty of Versailles and its impact. The Treaty of Versailles, signed in 1919, formally ended World War I and imposed harsh penalties on Germany. Among its provisions were substantial territorial losses, demilitarization, and reparations payments. These punitive measures severely weakened Germany economically and politically, fostering resentment and a desire for revenge among the German populace. The perceived injustice of the treaty laid the groundwork for the rise of Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party in Germany, who capitalized on nationalist sentiment and promised to overturn the treaty's terms. Rise of totalitarian regimes, Nazism, fascism. The interwar period witnessed the emergence of totalitarian regimes in Germany, Italy, and Japan. Adolf Hitler's ascension to power in Germany in 1933, Benito Mussolini's fascist regime in Italy, and militarist factions in Japan all sought to expand their nation's influence and territories through aggressive foreign policies. These regimes espoused nationalist ideologies, glorified military strength, and pursued expansionist agendas, destabilizing the fragile peace established after World War I. Expansionism and militarism in Japan, Italy, and Germany. In the 1930s, Japan, Italy, and Germany pursued expansionist policies aimed at acquiring territory and resources. Japan's invasion of Manchuria in 1931 and subsequent aggression in China, Italy's annexation of Ethiopia in 1935, and Germany's rearmament and remilitarization of the Rhineland violated international treaties and provoked tensions among the major powers. These actions demonstrated a growing disregard for diplomatic norms and contributed to the breakdown of international order. The League of Nations, established after World War I to promote international cooperation and prevent future conflicts, proved ineffective in maintaining peace. Its inability to enforce collective security measures, such as sanctions against aggressor nations, undermined its credibility and emboldened expansionist regimes. The League's failure to respond decisively to acts of aggression, such as the Japanese invasion of Manchuria and the Italian invasion of Abyssinia, eroded confidence in diplomatic solutions and paved the way for further aggression. In summary, the causes of World War II can be attributed to a combination of unresolved grievances from World War I. The rise of aggressive totalitarian regimes, expansionist ambitions, and the failure of international institutions to maintain peace and stability. These factors converged to create a volatile environment in which the outbreak of a global conflict became increasingly likely, ultimately leading to the devastation of World War II. Key events timeline. World War II was characterized by a series of pivotal events that shaped the course of the conflict and altered the course of history. These key events represent significant turning points and milestones in the progression of the war. The invasion of Poland by Nazi Germany on September 1, 1939, marked the beginning of World War II in Europe. The swift and coordinated attack, utilizing blitzkrieg tactics, overwhelmed Polish defenses and led to the occupation of the country by Germany. Blitzkrieg tactics. Blitzkrieg, meaning lightning war in German, was a military strategy employed by the Germans characterized by fast-moving, coordinated attacks using tanks, aircraft, and infantry. Blitzkrieg tactics were instrumental in the early successes of the German military, allowing for rapid conquests and territorial gains. Fall of France. The fall of France in June 1940 was a significant blow to the Allied cause. Despite initial optimism, the German blitzkrieg overwhelmed French defenses, leading to the rapid defeat of France and the evacuation of British forces from Dunkirk. The Battle of Britain. Fought in the skies over Britain from July to October 1940, was a pivotal air campaign between the Royal Air Force, RAF, and the German Luftwaffe. The successful defense of Britain against German aerial attacks thwarted Hitler's plans for invasion and boosted Allied morale. Operation Barbarossa, launched by Germany on June 22, 1941, was the invasion of the Soviet Union. Despite initial successes, including the capture of key cities like Kiev, the invasion ultimately bogged down in the harsh Russian winter and ended in defeat for the Germans. Pearl Harbor, the Japanese surprise attack on the American naval base at Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, on December 7, 1941, brought the United States into World War II. The devastating attack resulted in significant casualties and prompted the U.S. declaration of war against Japan the following day. The Battle of Stalingrad, fought from August 1942 to February 1943, was a turning point on the Eastern Front. The Soviet victory at Stalingrad, achieved through brutal urban warfare and resilience, halted the German advance and marked the beginning of the Soviet counteroffensive. D-Day and the Normandy invasion. Operation Overlord, the Allied invasion of Normandy on June 6, 1944, commonly known as D-Day, was the largest amphibious assault in history. The successful landing of Allied forces on the beaches of Normandy established a crucial foothold in Western Europe, and paved the way for the liberation of German-occupied France. The Battle of Midway, fought in June 1942, was a decisive naval battle between the United States and Japan in the Pacific Theater. The American victory at Midway, achieved through strategic intelligence and naval air power, crippled the Japanese Navy and marked a turning point in the Pacific War. Atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. The atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki by the United States in August 1945 brought about the swift conclusion of World War II in the Pacific. The devastating nuclear attacks resulted in unparalleled destruction and prompted Japan's surrender, leading to the end of the war. The surrender of Axis powers, including Germany in May 1945 and Japan in September 1945, marked the official end of World War II. The unconditional surrender agreements, signed aboard the USS Missouri, brought about the cessation of hostilities and set the stage for post-war reconstruction and peace. Major battles and campaigns. World War II saw a series of major battles and campaigns fought across multiple theaters of war, each contributing to the overall outcome of the conflict. These battles were crucial in determining the course of the war and shaping the fate of nations involved. Here are some of the most significant battles and campaigns. The Battle of El Alamein, fought in North Africa from October 23 to November 11, 1942, was a decisive Allied victory over the Axis forces led by Field Marshal Erwin Rommel. The victory halted the Axis advance into Egypt and marked a turning point in the North African campaign. The Siege of Leningrad, lasting from September 1941 to January 1944, was one of the longest and deadliest sieges in history. The German blockade of the city resulted in widespread starvation and suffering, but the Soviet defense held firm, preventing the city from falling to the Germans. The Battle of the Bulge, fought in the Ardennes region of Belgium and Luxembourg from December 16, 1944 to January 25, 1945, was the last major German offensive on the Western Front. Despite initial gains, Allied forces successfully repelled the German advance, leading to heavy losses for the German army. The Battle of Kursk, fought from July 5 to August 23, 1943, was the largest tank battle in history and a pivotal confrontation on the Eastern Front. The Soviet victory at Kursk halted the German offensive and marked the beginning of the Soviet advance towards Germany. The Battle of Okinawa, fought from April 1 to June 22, 1945, was the largest amphibious assault in the Pacific theater of World War II. The intense battle resulted in heavy casualties on both sides, but ultimately, the Allies secured the island, bringing them closer to the Japanese mainland. The Battle of Stalingrad, fought from August 23, 1942, to February 2, 1943, was one of the deadliest battles of World War II and a turning point on the Eastern Front. The Soviet victory at Stalingrad halted the German advance into the Soviet Union and marked the beginning of the Soviet counteroffensive. The Battle of Midway, fought from June 4 to 7, 1942, was a pivotal naval battle in the Pacific Theater. The American victory at Midway, achieved through strategic intelligence and naval air power, crippled the Japanese Navy and shifted the balance of power in the Pacific. D-Day, the invasion of Normandy. Launched on June 6, 1944, commonly known as D-Day, was the largest amphibious assault in history. The successful landing of Allied forces on the beaches of Normandy established a crucial foothold in Western Europe, and paved the way for the liberation of German-occupied France. The Battle of Guadalcanal, fought from August 7, 1942, to February 9, 1943, was the first major offensive by Allied forces against the Empire of Japan. The battle for control of the island of Guadalcanal was fierce and prolonged, but ultimately, the Allies emerged victorious. The Battle of Moscow, fought from October 1941 to January 1942, was a crucial confrontation on the Eastern Front. The Soviet defense of Moscow halted the German advance towards the Soviet capital and dealt a significant blow to German morale. The Battle of Monte Cassino, fought from January to May 1944, was a series of 4 battles for control of the strategically important Monte Cassino monastery in Italy. The Allied victory at Monte Cassino paved the way for the liberation of Rome and the eventual defeat of Axis forces in Italy. The Battle of Iwo Jima, fought from February 19 to March 26, 1945, was a major battle in the Pacific Theater. The capture of Iwo Jima by Allied forces was crucial for establishing airfields to support the planned invasion of Japan. The Battle of Berlin, fought from April 16 to May 2, 1945, was the final major offensive in the European theater of World War II. The Soviet capture of Berlin marked the end of Nazi Germany and the culmination of the Allied victory in Europe. The Battle of the Atlantic, fought throughout the war from 1939 to 1945, was the longest continuous military campaign of World War II. The battle for control of the Atlantic shipping lanes was crucial for sustaining the Allied war effort and securing vital supplies. The Battle of the Coral Sea, fought from May 4 to 8, 1942, was a significant naval battle between the United States and Japan in the Pacific Theater. Although inconclusive in terms of tactical outcome, the battle marked the first time in history that opposing naval forces engaged without visual contact between surface ships. The Battle of Britain, fought from July to October 1940, was a pivotal air campaign between the Royal Air Force (RAF) and the German Luftwaffe. The successful defense of Britain against German aerial attacks thwarted Hitler's plans for invasion and boosted Allied morale. Battle of Pearl Harbor, the Japanese surprise attack on the American naval base at Pearl Harbor, Hawaii, on December 7, 1941, brought the United States into World War II. The devastating attack resulted in significant casualties and prompted the U.S. declaration of war against Japan the following day. The Battle of Tobruk, fought from April to December 1941, was a siege in the North African campaign. The successful defense of Tobruk by Allied forces, particularly the Australians, against the Axis siege was a significant morale booster for the Allies. The Battle of Anzio, fought from January to June 1944, was an amphibious landing and subsequent battle in Italy. The Allied landings at Anzio aimed to outflank German defenses and open a new front in the Italian campaign. The Battle of the Philippine Sea, fought in June 1944, was a decisive naval battle in the Pacific Theater. The American victory, also known as the Great Marianas Turkey Shoot, destroyed much of Japan's naval aviation capabilities and marked the end of Japanese carrier-based air power. These major battles and campaigns represent key moments in the history of World War II, each contributing to the overall outcome of the conflict and shaping the course of the 20th century. Home front and civilian experience. The home front during World War II was a crucial battleground where civilians played a significant role in supporting the war effort and enduring the hardships of conflict. From war propaganda to rationing, and from women entering the workforce to the internment of Japanese Americans, the civilian experience was diverse and impactful. Here's an overview of key aspects. War propaganda. Governments on both sides of the conflict used propaganda to mobilize support for the war effort, demonize the enemy, and boost morale among civilians. Posters, films, and radio broadcasts conveyed messages of patriotism, sacrifice, and unity. Rationing and shortages. Rationing programs were implemented to conserve resources and ensure equitable distribution of essential goods such as food, fuel, and clothing. Civilians faced strict rationing quotas and endured shortages of consumer goods. Women's roles in the war effort. With millions of men serving in the military, women entered the workforce in unprecedented numbers, taking on roles in industries traditionally dominated by men. Women worked in factories, shipyards, and offices, contributing significantly to war production, industrial production. With millions of men serving in the armed forces, women stepped into roles traditionally held by men in industries crucial to the war effort. They worked in factories, shipyards, munitions plants, and other manufacturing facilities, producing weapons, ammunition, vehicles, aircraft, and other supplies needed for the war. Women's labor was essential in maintaining wartime production levels and ensuring a steady supply of goods for the military. Rosie the Riveter. The iconic image of Rosie the Riveter symbolized the contributions of women to the war effort. Rosie represented the millions of women who took on industrial jobs previously reserved for men. The "We Can Do It" slogan associated with Rosie became a rallying cry for women entering the workforce and challenging traditional gender roles. Auxiliary services. In addition to working in industrial and manufacturing roles, women served in auxiliary services that supported the military, such as the Women's Army Corps, WAC, Women Accepted for Volunteer Emergency Service, WAVES, in the Navy, and Women Air Force Service Pilots, WASP. These women performed a wide range of non-combat roles, including clerical work, communications, logistics, and transportation. Nursing and medical services. Women played a vital role in providing medical care and support to wounded soldiers on the front lines and in military hospitals. As nurses, doctors, and medical technicians, they treated injuries, performed surgeries, and provided emotional support to soldiers. Many women also served as volunteers with organizations like the Red Cross, providing aid and comfort to servicemen and civilians alike. Resistance movements. In occupied territories, women participated in resistance movements, engaging in acts of sabotage, espionage, and clandestine communication to undermine enemy occupation forces. Women played key roles as couriers, intelligence gatherers, and organizers of underground networks, risking their lives to aid the Allied cause. Partisan fighters. Some women actively fought against Axis forces as part of partisan resistance groups operating behind enemy lines. These women engaged in guerrilla warfare, sabotage, and ambush tactics, disrupting enemy supply lines and providing intelligence to Allied forces. Support services. Women provided essential support services to military personnel, including operating canteens, recreational facilities, and social clubs. They also volunteered with organizations like the USO, United Service Organizations, hosting entertainment events and boosting morale among troops through music, dance, and other forms of recreation. Propaganda and recruitment. Women were featured prominently in propaganda campaigns aimed at recruiting volunteers for the military and encouraging support for the war effort. Posters, films, and advertisements portrayed women as patriotic heroes and emphasized their vital role in winning the war. Post-war legacy. The contributions of women to the war effort had a lasting impact on gender roles and societal attitudes towards women's capabilities. The war provided opportunities for women to prove their competence and leadership abilities in traditionally male-dominated fields, paving the way for greater gender equality in the post-war era. Internment of Japanese Americans in the U.S. Following the attack on Pearl Harbor, the United States government enacted Executive Order 9066, leading to the forced relocation and internment of over 100,000 Japanese Americans living on the West Coast. Families were uprooted from their homes and placed in internment camps under harsh conditions. Resistance movements in occupied countries. In occupied territories, civilians organized resistance movements to sabotage enemy infrastructure, gather intelligence, and aid Allied soldiers and fugitives. These movements played a crucial role in undermining enemy occupation forces. Evacuation of civilians during bombings. Civilians living in cities targeted by bombing raids were often evacuated to rural areas or underground shelters to protect them from aerial bombardment. Evacuation efforts aimed to minimize civilian casualties and maintain morale. Civil defense and air raid drills. Civil defense organizations were established to coordinate emergency response efforts and educate civilians on air raid safety procedures. Regular air raid drills and blackout practices were conducted to prepare civilians for potential attacks. Blackouts and curfews. Blackout regulations required civilians to cover windows at night, to prevent light from escaping and aiding enemy aircraft in targeting cities. Curfews were also enforced to restrict civilian movement during nighttime hours. War bond drives and fundraising efforts. Governments and organizations conducted war bond drives to finance the war effort, encouraging citizens to invest in government bonds to support military operations. Fundraising efforts, such as scrap metal drives and victory gardens, also rallied civilian support. Impact on children and education. Children experienced disruptions to their education due to school closures, evacuation, and shortages of educational resources. Many children also endured the trauma of separation from family members and exposure to wartime violence. Civilian casualties from bombings. Civilians living in urban areas faced the constant threat of aerial bombardment, resulting in widespread casualties and destruction of homes and infrastructure. Bombing raids inflicted heavy civilian casualties, particularly in cities targeted for strategic or industrial importance. Labor strikes and industrial disputes. Despite wartime unity efforts, labor strikes and industrial disputes still occurred as workers demanded better wages, working conditions, and rights. Some strikes were met with government intervention to maintain wartime production. Civilian medical response and healthcare challenges. Civilian healthcare systems faced immense challenges due to the influx of wounded soldiers and civilians, shortages of medical supplies, and the strain of treating casualties from bombings and combat. Civilian medical personnel worked tirelessly under difficult conditions to provide care to the injured. Impact on agriculture and food production. Agriculture and food production were heavily impacted by wartime labor shortages, rationing, and the diversion of resources to military needs. Government initiatives promoted increased food production through victory gardens and rationing programs. Civilian morale and propaganda resistance. Despite the hardships of war, civilians demonstrated resilience and resolve in the face of adversity. Some individuals resisted government propaganda and maintained critical perspectives on the war's objectives and consequences. Underground newspapers and clandestine media. Underground newspapers and clandestine media outlets provided alternative sources of information and dissenting viewpoints during the war. These publications operated covertly to circumvent censorship and promote anti-war sentiments. Women in industrial jobs and manufacturing. Women played essential roles in wartime industries, taking on jobs traditionally held by men in factories, shipyards, and manufacturing plants. Their contributions were vital to sustaining the war effort and supporting military production. Civilian surveillance and espionage. Governments conducted surveillance and counter-espionage efforts to identify and neutralize potential threats to national security. Civilian populations were subject to scrutiny, and suspected spies and collaborators were investigated and prosecuted. Wartime volunteerism and community mobilization. Communities mobilized to support the war effort through volunteerism, fundraising, and participation in civil defense activities. Volunteer organizations provided essential services, such as first aid, firefighting, and morale-boosting initiatives. Civilian pilot training programs. Civilian pilot training programs were established to train pilots for military service and civilian defense efforts. These programs recruited and trained civilians to operate aircraft for reconnaissance, transport, and other non-combat roles. The home front and civilian experience during World War II were characterized by sacrifice, resilience, and adaptation to the challenges of wartime conditions. Civilians played a vital role in supporting the war effort, enduring hardships, and contributing to the ultimate victory of the Allied powers. Holocaust and genocide. The Holocaust stands as one of the darkest chapters in human history, marked by the systematic extermination of millions of innocent lives by Nazi Germany and its collaborators during World War II. Here's an overview of key aspects related to the Holocaust and genocide. Nazi policies and the final solution. Nazi ideology propagated the belief in racial superiority, leading to discriminatory laws and policies targeting Jews, Romani people, homosexuals, disabled individuals, and other marginalized groups. The final solution was the culmination of these policies, aiming for the complete annihilation of European Jewry. Concentration camps and extermination camps. Concentration camps, such as Auschwitz, Dachau, and Buchenwald, were used to detain, torture, and exploit prisoners for forced labor. Extermination camps, such as Auschwitz-Birkenau, Sobibor, and Treblinka, were designed solely for mass murder through gas chambers and crematoria. resistance within concentration camps. Despite the harsh conditions and constant threat of death, some prisoners organized resistance efforts within concentration camps, including sabotage, underground publications, and escapes. These acts of defiance symbolized the resilience and courage of those subjected to Nazi persecution. Nuremberg trials and the pursuit of justice. After the war, the Nuremberg trials were held to prosecute prominent Nazi leaders and collaborators for war crimes, crimes against humanity, and genocide. These trials set a precedent for international justice and accountability for atrocities committed during times of conflict. Einsatzgruppen and mass shootings. Einsatzgruppen were mobile killing units tasked with executing Jews, Roma, and other targeted groups in mass shootings across Eastern Europe. These brutal massacres resulted in the deaths of hundreds of thousands of innocent civilians. Forced labor and slave camps. Millions of individuals were subjected to forced labor in factories, mines, and construction projects under brutal conditions. Slave labor camps, such as Auschwitz III, Monowitz, and Mauthausen-Gusen, exploited prisoners for the benefit of the Nazi war machine. Holocaust survivors and testimonies. Despite the overwhelming odds against survival, some individuals managed to survive the horrors of the Holocaust and bear witness to the atrocities they witnessed. Their testimonies serve as a vital reminder of the human cost of genocide and the resilience of the human spirit. Nazi euthanasia programs. The Nazis implemented euthanasia programs, such as Action T4, to exterminate disabled individuals deemed unfit or undesirable by the regime. These programs laid the groundwork for the mass murder of millions during the Holocaust. Genocide against Romani people. Parajmos, the Romani people, also known as Roma or Gypsies, were targeted for extermination by the Nazis alongside Jews and other minority groups. The Parajmos resulted in the deaths of hundreds of thousands of Romani individuals across Europe. Persecution of homosexuals and other marginalized groups. Homosexuals, Jehovah's Witnesses, political dissidents, and other marginalized groups were also targeted for persecution and extermination by the Nazis. Many suffered imprisonment, torture, and death in concentration camps. Collaborators and bystanders during the Holocaust. While some individuals actively participated in the persecution and murder of Jews and other victims, others stood by and did nothing or collaborated with the Nazi regime out of fear or self-interest. The complicity of bystanders and collaborators remains a troubling aspect of Holocaust history. Aftermath and rebuilding of Jewish communities. In the aftermath of the Holocaust, Jewish communities across Europe faced the daunting task of rebuilding their lives and communities devastated by genocide. The establishment of the State of Israel provided a homeland for many survivors, offering hope for a new beginning. Holocaust denial and revisionist movements. Despite overwhelming evidence of the Holocaust's occurrence, Holocaust denial and revisionist movements seek to distort or deny the reality of the genocide. These efforts to undermine historical truth and memory perpetuate dangerous falsehoods and perpetuate hatred. Legacy of Holocaust education and remembrance. Holocaust education and remembrance initiatives aim to ensure that the lessons of the Holocaust are never forgotten. Through education, memorials, museums, and commemorative events, societies strive to honor the memory of the victims and prevent future atrocities. International responses and refugee policies during the Holocaust. International responses to the Holocaust were often inadequate, with many countries closing their borders to refugees fleeing Nazi persecution. The failure to provide sanctuary to those in need remains a stain on the collective conscience of the international community. Holocaust memorials and museums. Holocaust memorials and museums serve as solemn tributes to the millions of lives lost during the Holocaust. These sites of remembrance provide opportunities for reflection, education, and commemoration. Jewish resistance movements in ghettos. Despite overwhelming odds, Jewish resistance movements in ghettos, such as the Warsaw Ghetto Uprising, demonstrated courage and defiance in the face of Nazi oppression. These acts of resistance symbolize the indomitable spirit of those determined to resist tyranny. Rescue missions and righteous among the nations. Some individuals risked their lives to rescue Jews and other victims of Nazi persecution, earning recognition as righteous among the nations by Yad Vashem, Israel's Holocaust Memorial Museum. These acts of heroism and compassion offer a glimmer of light in the darkness of the Holocaust. War crimes investigations and prosecutions. Efforts to seek justice for the perpetrators of Holocaust atrocities continue through ongoing war crimes investigations and prosecutions. The pursuit of accountability for genocide remains a crucial aspect of ensuring justice for the victims and preventing future atrocities. Holocaust survivors' resettlement and rehabilitation. Holocaust survivors faced numerous challenges in the aftermath of the war, including displacement, trauma, and the loss of family and community. Efforts to support survivors' resettlement, rehabilitation, and psychological care remain ongoing to address the long-term effects of their experiences. The Holocaust and genocide represent a dark chapter in human history, reminding us of the dangers of prejudice, hatred, and indifference. By remembering the victims, honoring the survivors, and learning from the past, we can strive to build a more just and compassionate world. Allied and Axis powers. The Second World War saw the alignment of nations into two major coalitions. The Allied powers and the Axis powers, each driven by distinct political, military, and economic objectives. Here's an overview of key aspects related to the Allied and Axis powers. Leadership. The Allied powers were led by prominent figures such as Winston Churchill, UK, Franklin D. Roosevelt, USA, Joseph Stalin, Soviet Union, Chiang Kai-shek, China, and Charles de Gaulle, France. The Axis powers were led by Adolf Hitler, Germany, Benito Mussolini, Italy, and Emperor Hirohito, Japan. Military strategies and alliances. Both alliances devised military strategies to achieve their respective goals, including offensive tactics, defensive maneuvers, and coordinated attacks. The Axis powers pursued aggressive expansionism, while the Allied powers focused on containing and eventually defeating the Axis forces. Economic and industrial mobilization. Both sides mobilized their economies and industrial sectors to support the war effort, producing weapons, vehicles, aircraft, and other supplies necessary for military operations. Economic resources played a crucial role in determining the outcome of the war. Axis powers collaboration and conflicts. Germany, Italy, and Japan formed the core of the Axis powers, collaborating to pursue their shared goal of territorial expansion and dominance. However, conflicts and rivalries occasionally arose among Axis partners, impacting strategic coordination. Allied powers cooperation and coordination. The Allied powers, including the United States, the United Kingdom, the Soviet Union, China, and later France, worked together to confront and defeat the Axis powers. Cooperation among Allied nations was essential for coordinating military operations and logistical support. Neutral countries and their involvement. Neutral countries such as Switzerland, Sweden, Spain, and others played varying roles during World War II, providing refuge for refugees, serving as diplomatic intermediaries, or maintaining strict neutrality to avoid conflict. Puppet regimes and occupied territories. The Axis powers established puppet regimes in occupied territories to exert control and exploit local resources. These regimes often faced resistance from local populations and partisan groups opposed to Axis occupation. Collaborationist governments and resistance movements within Axis countries. Some Axis-occupied countries collaborated with Nazi Germany or Fascist Italy, while others resisted occupation through underground movements, sabotage, and acts of defiance. Diplomatic negotiations and conferences. Diplomatic negotiations and conferences, such as the Yalta Conference and the Tehran Conference, provided opportunities for Allied leaders to discuss strategy, coordinate military operations, and plan post-war reconstruction efforts. Economic warfare and blockade strategies. Both sides engaged in economic warfare, imposing blockades and trade restrictions to weaken their adversaries' economies and disrupt supply chains. Allied blockades targeted Axis powers, while Axis submarines targeted Allied shipping lanes. Intelligence operations and code-breaking efforts. Intelligence agencies on both sides conducted espionage, code-breaking, and sabotage operations to gain strategic advantage. Efforts such as the Enigma code-breaking project provided crucial intelligence to Allied forces. Use of propaganda and psychological warfare. Propaganda was utilized extensively by both Allied and Axis powers to shape public opinion, boost morale, and demonize the enemy. Psychological warfare tactics aimed to undermine enemy morale and sow dissent. Technological advancements and arms race. Both sides invested heavily in technological advancements and weapons development, leading to innovations in military technology, including aircraft, tanks, submarines, and radar systems. Secret weapons projects and espionage efforts. Secret weapons projects, such as Germany's V-2 rockets and Japan's biological warfare experiments, were pursued by Axis powers. Allied espionage efforts sought to uncover and sabotage these projects. Axis and Allied occupation policies. Axis occupation policies varied widely, ranging from harsh repression to attempts at co-opting local populations. Allied occupation policies aimed to promote democracy, rebuild infrastructure, and prevent future aggression. Axis powers' colonial aspirations. Axis powers sought to expand their colonial empires, particularly in Africa and Asia, through conquest and occupation. This imperialist agenda clashed with the interests of Allied powers and indigenous resistance movements. Allied Lend-Lease programs and material support. The United States implemented Lend-Lease programs to provide military aid and material to Allied nations, enabling them to sustain their war efforts and resist Axis aggression. Wartime diplomacy and alliance formations. Diplomatic efforts aim to build and maintain alliances, secure military support, and coordinate strategic objectives. Shifts in diplomatic alliances and allegiances shaped the course of the war. Axis powers' expansionist ideologies. Axis powers embraced expansionist ideologies, seeking to establish hegemony over large regions and populations. These aggressive ambitions fueled territorial conquests and military aggression. Allied resistance movements in occupied territories. Resistance movements in Axis-occupied territories waged guerrilla warfare, sabotage, and intelligence gathering operations against occupying forces. These movements played a vital role in undermining Axis control and supporting Allied liberation efforts. The Allied and Axis powers represented opposing ideologies and interests during World War II, clashing in a global conflict that would shape the course of history and determine the fate of nations. Weapons, technology, and warfare in World War II. World War II witnessed unprecedented advancements in weapons, technology, and warfare strategies that shaped the course of the conflict. Here's an overview of key aspects. Blitzkrieg tactics. Blitzkrieg, or lightning war, was a German military strategy characterized by fast-moving armored formations supported by air power and infantry. This approach aimed to achieve rapid victories by overwhelming enemy defenses and exploiting weak points in the front lines. Air warfare. The Battle of Britain and bombing campaigns over Europe saw extensive use of aircraft for strategic bombing, aerial combat, and reconnaissance. Both Allied and Axis powers utilized bombers, fighters, and tactical aircraft to assert air superiority and target enemy infrastructure. Naval warfare. Naval warfare played a crucial role in both the European and Pacific theaters of war. U-boat campaigns in the Atlantic threatened Allied shipping lanes, while naval battles in the Pacific, such as Midway and Guadalcanal, decided the fate of entire campaigns. Development and use of atomic weapons. The development and use of atomic weapons by the United States in Hiroshima and Nagasaki marked a turning point in modern warfare, ushering in the nuclear age and fundamentally altering the strategic calculus of future conflicts. Trench warfare on the Eastern Front. The Eastern Front saw extensive trench warfare between German and Soviet forces, reminiscent of the First World War. Brutal conditions, entrenched positions, and massive casualties characterized this grueling theater of war. Chemical warfare and use of poison gas. While less prevalent than in World War I, chemical warfare tactics, including the use of poison gas, were still employed by both Axis and Allied powers in limited capacities, particularly in the form of tear gas and mustard gas. Tank battles and armored warfare. Tank battles, such as those at Kursk and El Alamein, showcased the importance of armored warfare on the battlefield. Tanks played a significant role in breakthroughs, encirclements, and supporting infantry operations. Guerrilla tactics and partisan warfare. Resistance movements and partisan groups engaged in guerrilla warfare behind enemy lines, conducting sabotage, ambushes, and intelligence gathering operations against occupying forces. These irregular tactics disrupted supply lines and weakened enemy morale. Amphibious assaults and beach landings. Amphibious assaults, exemplified by the Normandy landings on D-Day, were critical in opening new fronts and liberating occupied territories. These large-scale operations required meticulous planning, coordination, and courage. Urban warfare and sieges. Urban warfare, such as the Battle of Stalingrad, involved intense street fighting, close-quarters combat, and the destruction of civilian infrastructure. Sieges of cities imposed heavy casualties and tested the resolve of both defenders and attackers. Strategic bombing of cities. Strategic bombing campaigns targeted enemy cities and industrial centers, aiming to disrupt production, undermine morale, and weaken the enemy's war effort. Bombing raids inflicted widespread destruction and civilian casualties. Radar technology and early warning systems. Radar technology played a crucial role in air defense, early warning systems, and navigation for both ground and naval forces. Radar installations provided vital intelligence and helped coordinate air defenses against enemy attacks. Kamikaze attacks and suicide missions. Kamikaze attacks, carried out by Japanese pilots using aircraft loaded with explosives, aimed to inflict maximum damage on Allied ships. These suicide missions demonstrated the extreme measures taken by Japan to defend its territory. Military medical advancements and battlefield triage. Medical advancements, such as improved surgical techniques, blood transfusions, and the use of antibiotics, saved countless lives on the battlefield. Battlefield triage systems prioritized treatment based on the severity of injuries, maximizing survival rates. Psychological warfare tactics and propaganda dissemination. Psychological warfare techniques, including propaganda broadcasts, leaflet drops, and radio deception, aimed to undermine enemy morale, spread disinformation, and demoralize enemy troops and civilians. Sniper warfare and counter-sniper operations. Snipers played a significant role in infantry tactics, providing long-range precision fire and disrupting enemy movements. Counter-sniper operations were conducted to neutralize enemy sharpshooters and protect friendly forces. Development of radar and sonar technologies. Radar and sonar technologies revolutionized naval warfare, enabling detection of enemy ships, submarines, and aircraft over long distances. These innovations provided crucial advantages in anti-submarine warfare and naval battles. Night fighting and nocturnal operations. Night fighting capabilities, including night vision devices and searchlights, allowed military forces to conduct operations under cover of darkness. Night raids, reconnaissance missions, and ambushes became common tactics. Military engineering and fortification construction. Military engineers constructed defensive fortifications, bunkers, and obstacles to impede enemy advances and protect vital positions. Engineering innovations, such as the Mulberry Harbors and Bailey Bridges, facilitated logistical support and rapid deployment. Flamethrowers and incendiary weapons. Flamethrowers and incendiary weapons were employed for clearing enemy fortifications, destroying bunkers, and demoralizing enemy troops. These devastating weapons caused widespread destruction and inflicted heavy casualties in close combat. Innovations in weapons, technology, and warfare strategies transformed the battlefield during World War II, leading to unprecedented levels of destruction, but also paving the way for advances in military science and tactics in the post-war era. Impact and legacy of World War II. World War II had far-reaching consequences that reshaped the course of history and left a profound legacy on the world. Here are key aspects of its impact. Human casualties and destruction. World War II resulted in unparalleled human suffering, with millions killed and entire cities devastated by bombing raids and warfare. The scale of destruction left scars on societies and altered the lives of countless individuals. Redrawing of borders and geopolitical landscape. The post-war period saw significant changes to national boundaries and geopolitical arrangements, as former colonial empires dissolved and new nations emerged from the ashes of war. Formation of the United Nations. In response to the devastation of World War II, the United Nations was established to promote international cooperation, peace, and security, aiming to prevent future conflicts through diplomatic means. Cold War tensions and division of Europe. The ideological divide between the Western Allies and the Soviet Union led to the Cold War, a period of geopolitical tension, proxy conflicts, and nuclear brinkmanship that dominated international relations for decades. Emergence of superpowers. The United States and the Soviet Union emerged from World War II as the world's preeminent superpowers, wielding significant influence over global affairs and competing for dominance on the world stage. Rise of the United States as a global superpower. World War II propelled the United States to the forefront of global politics and economics, solidifying its position as a superpower and reshaping the post-war international order. Shift in global economic dominance. The war led to a shift in global economic power, with the United States and Western Europe becoming economic powerhouses while former colonial powers experienced decline. Demographic changes and population displacement. Millions of people were displaced by the war, leading to mass migrations, refugee crises, and demographic shifts that reshaped the social fabric of nations. Technological advancements and post-war applications. The technological innovations spurred by World War II, such as advances in aviation, medicine, and communications, had far-reaching implications for post-war development and progress. War crimes trials and establishment of international law. The Nuremberg trials and other war crimes tribunals held perpetrators of genocide and atrocities accountable, setting a precedent for prosecuting crimes against humanity and establishing international legal norms. Emergence of the nuclear arms race. The development and use of atomic weapons during World War II ushered in the nuclear age, and sparked a deadly arms race between the United States and the Soviet Union, heightening global tensions and the threat of nuclear war. Reconstruction efforts and the Marshall Plan. The Marshall Plan provided economic aid to rebuild war-torn Europe, fostering stability, prosperity, and democratic governance in the region and laying the groundwork for European integration. Psychological trauma and PTSD among veterans. World War II veterans faced significant psychological trauma and struggled with post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, highlighting the lasting toll of combat on mental health. Rise of nationalism and anti-colonial movements. The war fueled nationalist sentiments and anti-colonial movements, leading to decolonization and the end of colonial rule in many parts of the world. Transformation of global power structures. World War II precipitated a reordering of global power structures, with new alliances, rivalries, and geopolitical alignments shaping international relations in the post-war era. Re-evaluation of colonialism and imperialism. The atrocities of World War II prompted a re-evaluation of colonialism and imperialism, challenging the legitimacy of colonial rule and fostering movements for independence and self-determination. Emergence of human rights movements. World War II atrocities catalyzed the emergence of human rights movements and led to the adoption of international conventions and treaties aimed at protecting human dignity and preventing future atrocities. Economic recovery and rebuilding efforts. In the aftermath of World War II, countries embarked on extensive rebuilding efforts to reconstruct infrastructure, revive economies, and restore normalcy to war-torn societies. Shifting alliances and regional power dynamics. The dynamics of international alliances shifted in the post-war era, as former allies became rivals and new alliances formed in response to changing geopolitical realities. Long-term cultural and societal changes. World War II precipitated profound cultural and societal changes, influencing attitudes towards war, nationalism, and international cooperation, and shaping the collective memory of future generations. The impact and legacy of World War II reverberate to this day, reminding the world of the importance of peace, cooperation, and the preservation of human rights in preventing future conflicts and atrocities. Post-war reconstruction and global reorganization after World War II. The aftermath of World War II witnessed a monumental effort to rebuild nations shattered by conflict and establish a new world order. Here are key aspects of post-war reconstruction and global reorganization. Marshall Plan. The Marshall Plan, officially known as the European Recovery Program, was a U.S. initiative that provided economic assistance to Western European countries devastated by the war. It aimed to rebuild infrastructure, stimulate economic growth, and prevent the spread of communism. Denazification and democratization of Germany. Allied powers undertook efforts to dismantle Nazi ideology, purge Nazi officials from positions of power, and democratize German society. This included the Nuremberg trials and the establishment of democratic institutions in post-war Germany. Rebuilding efforts in Europe and Japan. Extensive reconstruction efforts were undertaken in war-torn regions, including Europe and Japan. Infrastructure, cities, and economies were rebuilt from the ground up, laying the foundation for post-war prosperity. Decolonization movements. The war accelerated the decolonization process, as colonial powers weakened and nationalist movements gained momentum. Many colonies in Asia and Africa achieved independence in the post-war period, reshaping global power dynamics. Establishment of international organizations. International institutions such as the International Monetary Fund, IMF, World Bank, and United Nations were founded to promote economic stability, development, and international cooperation in the aftermath of World War II. Economic recovery and the economic miracle in Europe. Europe experienced a remarkable economic revival in the post-war years, known as the economic miracle. This period of rapid growth and prosperity transformed war-ravaged economies into industrial powerhouses. Reintegration of veterans into civilian life. Returning veterans face challenges reintegrating into civilian society, including finding employment, accessing healthcare, and coping with physical and psychological trauma. Creation of the European Coal and Steel Community, ECSC. The ECSC, formed in 1951, was the precursor to the European Union and aimed to promote economic cooperation and prevent future conflicts by pooling coal and steel resources among member states. Emergence of the United Nations. The United Nations was established in 1945 to maintain international peace and security, foster cooperation among nations, and promote respect for human rights and fundamental freedoms. Development of the Bretton Woods system. The Bretton Woods system, established in 1944, created a framework for international monetary relations, including fixed exchange rates tied to the US dollar, to stabilize the global economy in the post-war era. Adoption of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. The Universal Declaration of Human Rights, adopted by the UN General Assembly in 1948, set out fundamental human rights and freedoms to be universally protected, providing a moral and legal framework for post-war societies. Redistribution of territories and populations in Europe. Borders were redrawn and populations were displaced as a result of wartime annexations. Population transfers and agreements reached at international conferences such as the Potsdam Conference. Formation of military alliances. Military alliances such as NATO, North Atlantic Treaty Organization, and the Warsaw Pact emerged to counter the perceived threats of aggression and provide collective security in the post-war period. Rise of the Cold War. The ideological and geopolitical rivalry between the United States and the Soviet Union intensified after World War II, leading to the Cold War, a state of political and military tension characterized by proxy conflicts and nuclear brinkmanship. Implementation of war crimes tribunals and trials. War crimes tribunals, such as the Nuremberg trials, were held to prosecute individuals responsible for war crimes, crimes against humanity, and genocide committed during World War II. Technological innovations for civilian applications. Technological advancements made during the war, including innovations in aviation, medicine, and communications, were adapted for civilian use, driving post-war economic growth and societal development. Immigration and resettlement programs. Displaced persons and refugees sought resettlement in new countries, leading to immigration policies and resettlement programs aimed at providing assistance and integrating refugees into host societies. Cultural shifts and post-war trauma. Artists, writers, and intellectuals grappled with the trauma and disillusionment of war, producing works that reflected the psychological and emotional toll of conflict on individuals and societies. Emergence of new political ideologies and social movements. The post-war period witnessed the rise of new political ideologies, including socialism, communism, and anti-colonial nationalism, as well as social movements advocating for civil rights, women's rights, and environmental protection. Integration of war experiences into national narratives and education systems. The memory of World War II became an integral part of national narratives and education systems, shaping how future generations understood the war's causes, consequences, and lessons for humanity. The post-war period was marked by unprecedented challenges and opportunities as nations worked to rebuild, reconcile, and forge a new path forward in the aftermath of the most devastating conflict in human history. The scars of war were deep, both physically and emotionally, as cities lay in ruins, economies struggled to recover, and millions of lives were forever altered. Yet, amidst the devastation, there emerged a collective determination to rebuild and create a better future. Reconstruction efforts were vast and multifaceted, encompassing not only the physical rebuilding of infrastructure and economies, but also the social and political restructuring of societies shattered by war. Governments implemented ambitious programs to address the immediate needs of their populations, including providing food, shelter, and medical care to displaced persons and refugees. Meanwhile, international cooperation and collaboration played a crucial role in facilitating recovery efforts, with countries pooling resources and expertise to overcome common challenges. At the same time, the post-war period was a time of reckoning and reflection, as the world grappled with the atrocities committed during the war and sought to hold accountable those responsible for crimes against humanity. The establishment of international tribunals, such as the Nuremberg trials, was a watershed moment in the pursuit of justice and the recognition of individual accountability for war crimes and genocide. Moreover, the post-war era witnessed profound geopolitical shifts as the old order gave way to new power dynamics and alliances. The emergence of the United States and the Soviet Union as superpowers, locked in a bitter Cold War rivalry, fundamentally reshaped the global balance of power and shaped international relations for decades to come. Certainly. Let's delve into each aspect of World War II historiography and memory with more detail. Interpretations of World War II in different countries. Each country has its own perspective on World War II, shaped by its unique historical, cultural, and political context. For example, in the United States, the focus may be on the role of American forces in defeating fascism, while in Germany, there's an emphasis on confronting the country's responsibility for the Holocaust. Memorialization and remembrance. Memorials and remembrance ceremonies serve as physical manifestations of collective memory. They range from grand monuments honoring fallen soldiers to smaller memorials commemorating specific events or groups, such as Holocaust memorials or memorials for civilian casualties. Evolution of historical understanding and revisionist debates. Historical interpretations of World War II have evolved over time as new evidence emerges and perspectives change. Revisionist debates challenge established narratives, prompting historians to re-evaluate commonly held beliefs about the causes, events, and consequences of the war. Impact of World War II on historiography and academic disciplines. World War II has had a profound impact on academic disciplines beyond history, influencing fields such as political science, sociology, literature, and cultural studies. Scholars examine how the war shaped societies, cultures, and ideologies, providing insights into broader historical processes. Memory politics and controversies over national narratives. Memory politics surrounding World War II often intersect with contemporary political agendas, leading to debates over national narratives, victimhood, and responsibility. Countries may have different interpretations of historical events, resulting in diplomatic tensions and disagreements over how to remember the past. Oral history projects and their role in preserving memory. Oral history projects collect first-hand accounts from individuals who experienced World War II, providing valuable insights into personal experiences, perspectives, and emotions. These narratives offer a humanizing perspective on the war and help preserve the memories of those who lived through it. Influence of propaganda on historical narratives. Propaganda played a significant role during World War II, shaping public perceptions and influencing historical narratives. Historians examine how propaganda was used to manipulate public opinion, justify military actions, and demonize the enemy, impacting the way the war is remembered and interpreted. Public commemorations and anniversaries. Public commemorations and anniversaries provide opportunities for communities to come together and reflect on the significance of World War II. These events often include ceremonies, speeches, and cultural performances, fostering a sense of collective memory and remembrance. Digital archives and accessibility of historical materials. Digital archives and online resources have revolutionized access to historical materials related to World War II, making primary sources, documents, and multimedia resources more widely available to researchers, educators, and the public. These digital platforms facilitate research, education, and preservation efforts, ensuring that the memory of World War II remains accessible for future generations. Representation of World War II in popular culture and media. World War II continues to be a popular subject in literature, film, television, and other forms of media, shaping public perceptions and influencing historical memory. From epic Hollywood films to intimate personal memoirs, popular culture provides a lens through which people engage with the complexities of the war. Educational curricula and teaching about World War II. World War II is a key topic in educational curricula worldwide, with educators using diverse approaches to teach about the causes, events, and consequences of the war. Textbooks, classroom activities, and educational resources play a crucial role in shaping students' understanding of World War II and its significance. Role of museums and memorials in shaping memory. Museums and memorials play a crucial role in shaping public memory of World War II, presenting artifacts, exhibits, and narratives that engage visitors and provoke reflection. Through interactive displays, educational programs, and curated exhibitions, these institutions contribute to the preservation and dissemination of historical memory. Cross-generational transmission of memory. Memory of World War II is transmitted across generations through family stories, commemorations, and educational initiatives, influencing individual and collective identities. Through intergenerational dialogue and storytelling, younger generations learn about the experiences and sacrifices of those who lived through the war, ensuring that their memory lives on. Intersectionality and diverse perspectives in World War II historiography. Historians increasingly explore diverse perspectives, including those of women, minorities, and marginalized groups, to provide a more inclusive and nuanced understanding of World War II. By examining the experiences of different social groups, historians uncover overlooked narratives and challenge dominant historical narratives. Indigenous perspectives on World War II. Indigenous peoples' experiences and contributions during World War II are increasingly recognized and studied, highlighting their often overlooked roles in the conflict. Indigenous communities around the world were affected by the war, and their perspectives offer valuable insights into the global impact of World War II. Comparative approaches to understanding World War II. Comparative studies of World War II across different theaters of war, regions, and conflicts offer insights into global dynamics, transnational connections, and comparative histories. By examining similarities and differences between various contexts, historians gain a deeper understanding of the complexities of World War II and its legacies. Impact of technological advancements on memory preservation. Technological advancements, such as digitization, virtual reality, and augmented reality, offer new opportunities for preserving and presenting World War II memory in innovative ways. These technologies enhance the accessibility and immersive nature of historical storytelling, allowing people to engage with the past in new and meaningful ways. Cultural trauma and collective memory studies. World War II is a subject of study in cultural trauma and collective memory studies, exploring how societies remember, commemorate, and cope with traumatic events. By examining the cultural and psychological dimensions of memory, scholars gain insights into the lasting impact of World War II on individual and collective psyches. International cooperation in preserving World War II memory. International initiatives, collaborations, and partnerships aim to preserve and promote the memory of World War II across borders and foster mutual understanding and reconciliation. By working together to document, interpret, and commemorate the events of World War II, countries contribute to the preservation of global memory and the prevention of future conflicts. Historical revisionism and its implications. Historical revisionism challenges established narratives of World War II, raising questions about objectivity, bias, and the role of ideology in shaping historical interpretations. While revisionist perspectives can enrich historical scholarship by prompting critical inquiry and reassessment, they can also spark controversy and debate over the interpretation of historical events. In summary, the study of World War II historiography and memory encompasses a wide range of interdisciplinary perspectives and methodologies, reflecting the complexity and significance of this pivotal moment in human history. From diverse interpretations across nations to the evolution of historical understanding through revisionist debates, the memory of World War II is deeply intertwined with contemporary politics, culture, and identity. Memorials, museums, and educational curricula play critical roles in shaping public memory and transmitting the legacy of the war to future generations. Through digital archives, oral history projects, and comparative studies, Historians strive to preserve the diverse perspectives and experiences of those impacted by World War II while grappling with issues of representation, memory politics, and historical revisionism. Ultimately, the study of World War II historiography and memory underscores the enduring significance of the war and its profound impact on global societies, cultures, and ideologies. Primary sources and oral histories are invaluable resources for understanding the lived experiences, perspectives, and events of World War II. These first-hand accounts provide rich insights into the human dimensions of the conflict, offering a nuanced understanding of the era. Here are key categories of primary sources and oral histories. Diaries, letters, and memoirs of soldiers and civilians. Personal writings offer intimate glimpses into the thoughts, emotions, and daily lives of individuals affected by the war, including soldiers on the front lines and civilians on the home front. Interviews with survivors. Oral testimonies from survivors of World War II provide first-hand narratives of their experiences during the war, including accounts of persecution, resistance, liberation, and rebuilding. Official documents and archival materials, government records, diplomatic correspondence, and official reports offer authoritative accounts of military operations, political decisions, and wartime policies. Photographs and visual records of the war. Photographs, films, and other visual materials capture the realities of World War II, documenting battles, atrocities, daily life, and moments of resilience and heroism. War propaganda materials and leaflets. Propaganda posters, leaflets, and broadcasts reflect the efforts of governments and military authorities to shape public opinion, mobilize support, and influence behavior during the war. Radio broadcasts and newsreels. Radio broadcasts and newsreels served as vital sources of information and propaganda during World War II, shaping public perceptions and understanding of the conflict. Wartime posters and advertisements. Posters and advertisements promoted various wartime initiatives, including recruitment drives, bond sales, rationing campaigns, and civil defense measures. Cartoons and satirical publications. Cartoons and satirical publications provided commentary on the war and its participants, offering insights into public attitudes, humor, and critiques of wartime propaganda. Personal artifacts and keepsakes. Objects such as uniforms, medals, ration books, and family heirlooms serve as tangible reminders of individuals' experiences and contributions during World War II. Oral history projects and audio recordings. Oral history projects preserve the voices and memories of World War II veterans, survivors, and eyewitnesses through recorded interviews and testimonials. War correspondence and censorship. Correspondence between soldiers and their loved ones, as well as reports from war correspondents, provide first-hand perspectives on military campaigns and life on the front lines. Military records and service documents. Official military records, service dossiers, and personnel files offer detailed information about soldiers, units, operations, and logistics during World War II. Refugee testimonies and immigration records. Testimonies from refugees and immigrants document their experiences of displacement, persecution, and resettlement during and after World War II. Artifacts from concentration camps and ghettos. Objects recovered from concentration camps and ghettos serve as poignant reminders of the atrocities committed during the Holocaust and other acts of genocide. Maps and military operational plans. Maps and military plans provide insights into the strategic decisions, troop movements, and geographic dimensions of World War II battles and campaigns. Wartime newspapers and periodicals. Newspapers and periodicals published during World War II offer contemporary accounts of events, public opinion, and wartime propaganda. Government reports and commissions. Official reports and commissions investigate various aspects of World War II, including war crimes, intelligence operations, and post-war reconstruction efforts. Propaganda films and documentaries. Films and documentaries produced during World War II reflect both Allied and Axis perspectives, shaping public opinion and perceptions of the war. Eyewitness testimonies and affidavits. Eyewitness testimonies and sworn affidavits provide legal and personal accounts of wartime events, atrocities, and human rights abuses. Speeches and public addresses. Speeches by political leaders, military commanders, and public figures offer insights into the rhetoric, ideologies, and motivations behind World War II policies and actions. These primary sources and oral histories form the foundation of World War II scholarship, enabling researchers, educators, and the public to gain a deeper understanding of this transformative period in history. Through careful analysis and interpretation, these sources illuminate the complexities and legacies of World War II for generations to come. Cultural representations. World War II, with its immense scale and profound impact, has inspired a vast array of cultural expressions across various mediums, each offering unique insights into the human experience during this tumultuous period. Here's a detailed exploration of the diverse cultural representations of World War II. Literature, film, art, and music depicting World War II. Throughout the decades, writers, filmmakers, artists, and musicians have drawn upon the canvas of World War II to craft narratives, films, visual artworks, and musical compositions that vividly depict the struggles, sacrifices, and triumphs of individuals and nations engulfed in the conflict. From epic novels to haunting symphonies, these creations provide nuanced portrayals of the human condition during wartime. Analysis of propaganda materials. Scholars meticulously analyze the propaganda machinery deployed by both Axis and Allied powers during World War II, exploring the visual and textual elements of propaganda posters, leaflets, radio broadcasts, and films. Through such analysis, researchers uncover the intricate strategies employed to shape public perception, foster national unity, and demonize the enemy, shedding light on the power dynamics of wartime propaganda. Holocaust literature and film. The Holocaust stands as one of the darkest chapters in human history, and literature and film have served as crucial mediums for bearing witness to its horrors. Holocaust literature and films confront the unspeakable atrocities perpetrated against millions of Jews and other targeted groups, offering poignant reflections on suffering, resilience, and the enduring quest for justice and remembrance. War poetry and memoirs. Poets and memoirists capture the raw emotions and harrowing experiences of soldiers and civilians caught in the maelstrom of war. Through verse and prose, they convey the anguish, camaraderie, fear, and hope that defined life on the battlefield and the home front, immortalizing the voices of those who lived through WWII's trials and tribulations. Theatre productions and stage performances. The stage serves as a powerful platform for exploring the human dimensions of World War II, with theatrical productions bringing to life the stories of individuals grappling with moral dilemmas, personal tragedies, and acts of extraordinary courage amid the chaos of war. Through compelling performances and thought-provoking narratives, theatergoers are transported to the heart of wartime experiences. Documentary filmmaking and historical reenactments. Documentaries and historical reenactments offer audiences factual accounts and immersive experiences of World War II events, drawing upon archival footage, eyewitness testimonies, and expert analysis to illuminate key moments in history. These cinematic endeavors provide valuable insights into the complexities of warfare, diplomacy, and human resilience. Visual arts and exhibitions on World War II themes. Artists across generations and cultures have grappled with the legacies of World War II, producing a rich tapestry of visual artworks that explore themes of conflict, remembrance, and reconciliation. Art exhibitions dedicated to World War II themes offer viewers opportunities to engage with diverse interpretations of the war's impact on society, politics, and culture. Popular music and songs of the era. The music of the World War II era reflects the spirit of the times, with songs expressing sentiments of patriotism, longing, resilience, and solidarity. From iconic wartime anthems to poignant ballads, these musical compositions serve as poignant reminders of the emotional landscapes shaped by the war. Graphic novels and comic books about World War II. Graphic novels and comic books provide accessible and engaging narratives that delve into the complexities of World War II history, offering readers compelling visual storytelling and nuanced characterizations. Through the medium of sequential art, graphic narratives explore diverse perspectives on the war, from frontline combat to civilian experiences. Architectural responses to war destruction. Architects and urban planners grapple with the physical and psychological scars left by World War II, designing memorials, monuments, and rebuilt cities that serve as testaments to resilience, remembrance, and hope. These architectural interventions reflect efforts to honor the past while envisioning a future shaped by peace and reconciliation. Fashion and design influenced by wartime rationing. Fashion designers navigate the challenges of wartime rationing and scarcity, innovating designs that balance practicality with style. From utility clothing to make-do and mend fashion, wartime fashion reflects the resilience and resourcefulness of individuals adapting to the exigencies of wartime life. Cultural responses to post-war trauma and rebuilding, artists and writers confront the aftermath of World War II, grappling with themes of trauma, rebuilding, and reconciliation in their creative works. Through literature, art, and film, cultural producers explore the complexities of post-war recovery, memory, and identity in a world forever changed by conflict. Literary and artistic movements shaped by World War II experiences. World War II experiences influence literary and artistic movements, shaping cultural production in the post-war period. From existentialist literature to abstract expressionist art, the aftermath of World War II fosters a rich tapestry of creative expression that reflects the complexities of human existence in the shadow of war. War-themed video games and interactive media. Video game developers leverage interactive media to immerse players in the landscapes of World War II, offering dynamic storytelling and gameplay experiences that engage with historical events and narratives. Through video games, players can explore virtual worlds inspired by World War II history, gaining insights into the challenges and moral dilemmas faced by those caught in the conflict. Cultural diplomacy initiatives post-WWII. Cultural exchanges and initiatives promote international understanding and reconciliation in the aftermath of World War II, fostering dialogue and cooperation between former adversaries. Through cultural diplomacy, nations seek to transcend historical divisions and forge bonds of friendship and cooperation in a post-war world. Propaganda cartoons and animated films. Cartoons and animated films serve as potent tools for wartime propaganda, employing humor, satire, and visual storytelling to convey ideological messages and shape public opinion. Through animation, propagandists disseminate narratives of heroism, sacrifice, and national pride, appealing to audiences of all ages. War photography and photojournalism. Photographers capture the stark realities of World War II through powerful images that document the human toll of conflict, the resilience of individuals, and the destruction wrought by war. Through photojournalism, they bear witness to history, providing visual records that serve as testaments to the courage and suffering of those caught in the crossfire. Monumental sculptures and public art installations. Monumental sculptures and public art installations commemorate the sacrifices of World War II veterans, memorializing their courage and resilience for future generations. Through public art, communities honor the legacies of those who served and reflect on the profound impact of World War II on society and culture. Multimedia exhibitions on World War II history. Multimedia exhibitions offer immersive and interactive experiences that engage visitors with World War II history, combining archival materials, audiovisual presentations, and interactive displays. Through multimedia storytelling, these exhibitions bring the complexities of World War II to life, fostering deeper understanding and empathy among audiences. Ethical considerations in representing World War II in culture. Artists, writers, and filmmakers grapple with ethical considerations when representing World War II in culture, navigating issues of authenticity, sensitivity, and historical accuracy in their creative endeavors. Through responsible storytelling and cultural production, they strive to honor the memories of those who lived through the war while fostering dialogue and reflection on its enduring legacies. Advanced topics for higher-level study. As scholars delve deeper into the complexities of World War II, they encounter advanced topics that offer nuanced perspectives and insights into the multifaceted nature of the conflict. Here's a comprehensive overview of advanced themes for higher-level study. Economic consequences of the war. Explore the profound economic shifts triggered by World War II, including the mobilization of industrial resources, the redirection of production towards wartime needs, and the subsequent challenges of post-war reconstruction. Analyze the impact of war-related spending on national economies, inflation, debt accumulation, and long-term economic recovery efforts. Investigate the role of economic policies, such as the Marshall Plan, in fostering recovery and rebuilding shattered economies in the aftermath of the war. Resistance movements in various countries. Delve into the diverse forms of resistance against Axis occupation across different nations, ranging from organized guerrilla warfare and sabotage operations to underground networks and acts of civil disobedience. Examine the motivations, strategies, and challenges faced by resistance fighters, as well as the impact of their actions on the course of the war and the liberation of occupied territories. Collaboration and complicity. Explore the complex dynamics of collaboration and complicity with occupying forces. Investigating the motivations, circumstances, and consequences of collaborationist regimes and individuals. Analyze the moral ambiguities, ethical dilemmas, and legacy of collaborationist governments in post-war societies, as well as the efforts to reckon with complicity and collaboration in the pursuit of justice and reconciliation. Psychological impacts of war on soldiers and civilians. Investigate the psychological toll of combat, displacement, and trauma on individuals, families, and communities, examining the prevalence of post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD, survivor guilt, and other psychological disorders among veterans and civilians. Explore coping mechanisms, resilience factors, and the long-term mental health consequences of wartime experiences, as well as the psychological effects of propaganda, censorship, and indoctrination on civilian populations. Scientific advancements during wartime. Analyze the role of scientific research and technological innovations in shaping military strategy. Intelligence gathering, medical advancements, and the development of weapons of mass destruction during World War II. Explore breakthroughs in fields such as radar technology, cryptography, aviation, nuclear physics, and medicine, as well as the ethical dilemmas posed by scientific research conducted in the context of warfare. Cultural diplomacy and propaganda exchanges. Examine the use of cultural diplomacy, propaganda exchanges, and psychological warfare tactics by belligerent powers to influence public opinion, foster alliances, and undermine enemy morale during World War II. Analyze the dissemination of propaganda through various media channels, including radio broadcasts, newspapers, films, and visual arts, as well as the cultural exchanges aimed at shaping perceptions of wartime allies and enemies. Transnational networks and alliances during World War II. Investigate the intricate web of transnational alliances, diplomatic negotiations, and covert operations that shaped the course of World War II, including collaborations between resistance movements, intelligence agencies, and underground networks across national borders. Explore the role of international organizations, such as the United Nations and the International Red Cross, in facilitating humanitarian aid, diplomacy, and peacekeeping efforts during and after the war. Espionage and intelligence operations. Delve into the clandestine world of espionage, code breaking, and intelligence gathering during World War II, highlighting key players, covert operations, and the impact of intelligence on military decision-making and strategic outcomes. Analyze the methods, technologies, and ethical dilemmas involved in espionage activities, as well as the contributions of intelligence agencies to victory in key battles and campaigns. The role of religion and spirituality during the war. Explore the diverse religious and spiritual responses to World War II, including acts of faith, religious resistance, and the moral dilemmas faced by religious leaders and communities amidst the upheaval of war. Investigate the role of religion in shaping individual and collective responses to suffering, loss, and moral dilemmas, as well as its influence on attitudes towards violence. Reconciliation and peacebuilding in the aftermath of the conflict. Environmental impacts of World War II. Assess the environmental consequences of warfare, including deforestation, pollution, displacement of populations, and the destruction of ecosystems, as well as efforts at environmental conservation and restoration. Explore the ecological footprint of military operations, the legacy of wartime pollution and contamination, and the long-term environmental effects on landscapes and biodiversity. Technological innovations and military-industrial complexes. Investigate the symbiotic relationship between technological innovation, military strategy, and industrial production during World War II, exploring the emergence of military-industrial complexes and their lasting effects on society. Analyze the development and deployment of new weapons systems, communication technologies, and logistical innovations, as well as the ethical implications of technological advancements in warfare. Indigenous experiences and perspectives on World War II. Illuminate the often overlooked experiences of indigenous peoples during World War II, including their contributions to the war effort, experiences of colonialism, and the impact of warfare on traditional lands and cultures. Explore indigenous perspectives on resistance, collaboration, and post-war reconstruction, as well as efforts to preserve indigenous languages, cultures, and rights in the aftermath of the conflict. Economic exploitation and profiteering during the war. Examine the economic exploitation, profiteering, and black market activities that flourished during World War II, highlighting the ethical complexities of war economies and the pursuit of profit amidst conflict. Analyze the role of war profiteers, monopolies, and financial institutions in capitalizing on wartime conditions, as well as the social and economic consequences of economic exploitation on vulnerable populations. Social and cultural upheavals during wartime. Analyze the social and cultural transformations precipitated by World War II, including shifts in gender roles, family dynamics, cultural norms, and the reconfiguration of social hierarchies in the wake of global upheaval. Explore the impact of wartime mobilization, propaganda, and censorship on social identities, as well as the role of cultural production, education, and media in shaping public attitudes and behaviors during the conflict. War crimes investigations and trials. Delve into the legal and ethical dimensions of war crimes investigations, trials, and transitional justice mechanisms following World War II, including the prosecution of perpetrators, the pursuit of truth and reconciliation, and the challenges of achieving accountability. Analyze the role of international tribunals, national courts, and truth commissions in addressing wartime atrocities and promoting accountability, as well as the impact of war crimes trials on post-war reconciliation and memory. Medical advancements and public health responses. Assess the medical innovations, public health initiatives, and humanitarian responses that emerged in response to the health crises precipitated by World War II, including disease outbreaks, mass displacement, and the trauma of war. Explore advances in medical technology, surgical techniques, and psychiatric care, as well as the role of international organizations, such as the Red Cross and UNICEF, in providing humanitarian aid and healthcare services to war-affected populations. Ethical dilemmas in wartime decision-making. Examine the moral quandaries faced by political leaders, military commanders, and ordinary citizens during times of war, exploring issues of justice, morality, and the competing demands of duty and conscience. Analyze ethical theories, principles, and frameworks applied to wartime decision-making, as well as case studies of moral courage. Ethical dilemmas and moral injury experienced by individuals and communities affected by war. Role of art and culture in resistance movements. Investigate the subversive power of art, literature, and cultural expression as forms of resistance against oppression, censorship, and authoritarian regimes during World War II. Analyze the role of artists, writers, and intellectuals in shaping public discourse, fostering solidarity, and challenging dominant narratives through creative expression, as well as the impact of cultural production on resistance movements, memory politics, and post-war reconciliation efforts. Post-war reconciliation efforts and peace-building initiatives. Explore the challenges and complexities of post-war reconciliation, peace-building, and transitional justice processes following World War II. Highlighting efforts to heal divisions, promote reconciliation, and prevent future conflicts in the aftermath of the war. Analyze the role of truth commissions, reparations programs, and memorialization initiatives in addressing historical injustices, fostering social cohesion, and building sustainable peace in war-affected societies. In summary, World War II stands as one of the most significant events in human history, characterized by a complex interplay of political, economic, social, and cultural factors. The causes of the war, including the Treaty of Versailles, the rise of totalitarian regimes, expansionism, and the failure of international diplomacy, set the stage for a global conflict of unprecedented scale. Key events such as the invasion of Poland, the Battle of Stalingrad, and the atomic bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki reshaped the geopolitical landscape and inflicted immense human suffering. The war saw major battles and campaigns fought across multiple theaters, from the deserts of North Africa to the jungles of the Pacific Islands, leaving a trail of devastation in its wake. On the home front, civilians experienced war through rationing, propaganda, and the upheaval of daily life, while the Holocaust and genocide perpetrated by the Nazis underscored the depths of human depravity. The conflict involved a complex web of alliances and rivalries among Allied and Axis powers, with leadership personalities like Churchill, Roosevelt, Hitler, and Stalin shaping the course of events. Diplomatic negotiations, intelligence operations, and technological advancements played crucial roles in determining the outcome of the war. The aftermath of World War II brought profound changes to the global order, including the establishment of the United Nations, the onset of the Cold War, and the emergence of new superpowers. Post-war reconstruction efforts, economic recovery, and efforts to reckon with the legacies of the war reshaped societies and paved the way for new geopolitical dynamics. The memory of World War II is preserved through primary sources, oral histories, and cultural representations, while ongoing scholarship continues to uncover new perspectives and insights into this defining moment in human history.